To the ROC, where my colleague Faith Mangope joins us now. Faith, good afternoon. What is the national picture looking like there?
Good afternoon to you, Nomfundo. Well, I'll tell you one thing. It certainly is a statement that has been made today by even those that decided not to turn out to vote, as per what you just referenced to. And joining me right now is policy specialist TK Powe, just to unpack for us exactly what are the numbers looking like as the numbers are coming in, but also most importantly, what to look out for in the bigger metros and some of these turning points. For example, we've got the Umgeni municipality in KZN, for example. The Democratic Alliance quite chuffed with themselves, by the way, and how they fared when it comes to that municipality, but also they're able to then replicate somehow of a Midvaal. Are they able to sustain the win long after the election process has passed? So TK is going to expound with me that matter. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, TK. When we're looking at it, the national agenda, you always say, you were talking a little bit to me off air saying, Faith, the national agenda is one thing, but when we're looking at governance at a local government level, that is where the real rubber hits the road, because that's where the decision making actually takes place. Just from your insight and your observations exactly, what can you tell us regarding just the lay of the land so far as the vote counting continues to pour in?
No, thanks for having me, Faith. I think what it looks like is, it's a continued decline of the ANC basically across all provinces of South Africa. But I think what's more remarkable, especially for someone like who comes from the Mfuleni region, is that even the ANC strongholds, people are, it's not as though people are saying we're turning our backs totally on the ANC and giving our vote to someone else. It's rather, I'll sleep in and see what happens the next day type of thing. So for me, it's a big wake-up call for the ANC, but we've been saying that for how long now?
Haven't they been saying they've been introspecting? That has been the word. We are introspecting, we're reflecting.
Yeah, there's introspection, and then there's just simply we're introducing more of the same and not going anywhere else. So I don't know which one it is. But look, we also have to give props to people like Herman Mashaba. I think like 5 years back when he came on the scene, a lot of us were a bit skeptical as how's this guy going to do it? Yeah. But it seems as though he's found an avenue that works, and maybe voters are actually saying, listen, we're actually a bit tired of the in quote-unquote normal politicians, and he seems to get it done. But now the question, he seems to have got it done at the expense of his old friends, should I say, the EFF in the city of Joburg. So I think that's an interesting development. I think you said about the DA, about Mgeni. It's interesting only if, I think we take the caveat you put in, which is to say, the DA has been touting their model, I think, for the longest time. Where we govern, it is better. But the question's always been, you only seem to govern in places where you have a very strong, let's say, a wealthy rate. That's what Cape Town is. It's got a concentric circle of wealth, and they seem to service that quite well. But when you look into the outer areas of Khayelitsha and Langa, there's always questions about, can you do this the same for places like Umgeni, where it's going to be interesting to see what does the ratepayer dynamics look like? Is it wealthy or is it not? Because for me, I've always said, if it's one thing, if the DA could actually get their model to travel, then the rest of South Africans would take them very seriously. And until they do that, it's always going to be, well, you guys have Cape Town, you have Midvaal, so what?
So in other words, Cape Town Midvaal works, but works for whom? And that's the question, isn't it?
And that's the bigger question, because for me, most people, I think, when it comes to our own self-interest as human beings, we're not shy to look after ourselves. Yeah. So there must be a reason why this model is not traveling well into places like City of Joburg. Let us not forget, they did have the City of Joburg under Mr. Herman Mashaba. They did have the City of Tshwane. So the question seems to be, if this model is so great, why is it not working out across the whole of the country? Because people in their self-interest would go for you, even if they don't like some of the antics the DA puts up.
In 30 seconds, what about the independent candidates? It looks as though they're not doing as well as we had anticipated.
I think that one was, it's a trend. A train takes a long time to really take root. So it's one thing, I never look at it one election. For me, ask me the second time round, when we have these elections in about 2026, 2027. That's when we'll see, was it a trend, or was it a blip, or was it simply people saying, listen, I've got nowhere else to go to. Let me just try this moniker of being an independent.
It certainly is interesting times, of course. TK Powe there, our specialist, is taking us through what are some of the observations as we continue with the counting and as we continue capturing that data at the local government elections 2021. My colleague JJ Tabane is on the floor with us. JJ, I know that the big question has been around how is it that we can ensure free, fair, safe, right? And a lot of the observers, JJ, have been having to determine that. Were they free, fair, most importantly, were they safe under the circumstances? What say you with your guess?
Yes, indeed, Faith, it's still too early days. I know that political parties have to have something to say, even if only under 50% has been counted. So those can't mean much. the trends can only be anecdotal. But of course, we have to carry on talking to them. I'm standing now with a mayoral candidate for the city of Johannesburg under the Congress of the People, Faith Mangope, who's going to talk to me about what COPE thinks about what's going on there. Colleen, it's nice to meet you. Tell me,
Thank you.
In terms of what's your assessment of what is happening now, particularly in terms of your own performance, but also in terms of the performance of the IEC?
Yeah. JJ, I'm going to start with the performance of the IEC because I think that's critical leading us to where we are now. Yeah. Number one, we haven't seen them condemn strongly what has happened to COPE. We've reported our posters being put down. Yeah. We've reported the issues, if you will allow me, we've reported the issue of our rally being stopped illegally so by the law enforcement officers outside of the rule of law. Yeah. And that has impacted on the message that we wanted to take out to the voters. Yeah. And also deeper than that, on really the image of COPE. We don't want to be seen as a party that doesn't follow the law. And we've had to stop that rally, even though we had all the permissions to hold it. Yeah. But then we come back now, fast track to what we see as the results today. We are still very, very hopeful because 50% or under 50% have been counted. Yeah. That's also not in our strong provinces. You know, COPE has been campaigning very, very strongly, and we've put all our resources and the best candidates in Gauteng, Free State, and Northern Cape, and also Limpopo. And those results are yet to come. So what you are seeing now is really a reflection of the other districts that have been counted thus far, and less than 10,000 districts basically. But also, if you look at where we were 2019 at this time, we had about 7,000 votes. Right now, as we sit, we've got 28,000 votes, and that's just a spillover of what was happening.
That represents COPE growth?
Oh, certainly, certainly. Like I said, that's a spillover of what we're doing in Gauteng, Mpumalanga, that are the results that are yet to come. So that's a reflection of growth, that's a reflection of our message going out, and also a reflection of people starting to resonate with the new COPE. You see, COPE has shared...
What is the new COPE?
The new COPE, it has to do with the people. Yeah. It has to do with the type of leadership that COPE has put in. COPE has been out to, and that's why I'm here, to attract professionals, competent people with certain levels of skills. JJ, you must remember, when you are a mayor or you sit in council, you are a board of the council. Yeah. You have to think at a certain level. You have to be able to understand the financial projects, etc., and implement at a certain level. I think enough of the days of cadre deployment, where somebody who does not even have an understanding of how a municipal is supposed to run, any level of professionalism, etc., is put in there because of cadre deployment. That is not the COPE that is arising today.
So COPE doesn't have cadres?
Look, COPE will always have cadres, but we are saying that even if you're a cadre, if you do not reflect, for me, if you're not fit for purpose, you will not be considered for that position. You will be a cadre, but will educate you, will assist you to skill yourself so that you are able to be a ward councillor that can sit in council. And when COPE wanted to run for the city of Joburg, for instance, they didn't ask me about my loyalty card, where I've been politically, etc. No, they looked at my performance and my history, my values, and them resonated, and they thought city of Joburg is a city that's going to be a smart city, that should be at least by now be a smart city. I'm doing a PhD in management of innovation and technology. I've got an ICT background. I've been in business. I'm an entrepreneur, so I understand what needs to be put in place to make the city work. I'm a CFA holder as well, and what that also means is that as a professional who belongs to a professional board, including the Institute of Directors, if I go and be corrupt, I don't do what I promised to do, I'm putting my own profession at risk. So I'm a leader who has something to lose in the process. Yes.
It sounds fantastic. I hope to talk to you some more, and I wish you well in whatever you're doing. Final word, yes. Coalitions quickly, who have you ruled out?
We haven't ruled out anybody.
All right, let's leave it there. Faith Mangope, she's doing a PhD in ICT management. Clearly the new COPE there emerging. Faith, I want to talk quickly, Faith, before you take it away with the observers from Tshwane. You remember yesterday we talked a little bit with some of the election observers. We are now going to talk to somebody who's the face of Tshwane, is Mr. Midupi from Tshwane. Your election observers, who gave you the mandate?
The IEC gave us the mandate. So what IEC does, it calls the NPOs as a service provider to saying that we're looking for observers from all different provinces.
Okay.
So organizations.
So you are based in Tshwane?
Yes.
What's happening in Tshwane? Do you think that the election were run free and fair over there?
100%. They were run free and fair. No dispute. The only challenges that they did have was people that registered September, but when they came on the date of the voting, they didn't appear on the vote.
Is that widespread?
Yes, it was, but it's not only small numbers. It's not like a big number of people that didn't vote.
So it's not really a big issue that could impact the freeness and the fairness of the election?
No, it is an issue that we as an IC needs to look at because now when somebody comes registered to vote, but when they come on the voting date, they don't appear on the voters roll. It's a problem because now you took my choice away from me to vote. So it's something that we need to look at and make sure that the systems that are in place that for people to come vote, they have that.
Hotspots areas in Tshwane in terms of the either the voting stations not opening on time or the ballot papers running out?
No. Good thing everybody, the stations, all the voting stations, they adhere to the COVID-19 regulations. All of them. So
the scorecard for the IEC?
In terms of?
Out of 10?
So far. I would say 7.5.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Okay. Faith, I hope you got that. I just wanted to establish that there's no problems in Tshwane, but also get someone a different eye to tell me what they score the IEC out of. As you've seen, they've got a distinction, 7.5 out of 10. Faith, back to you.
Yeah, it's a very interesting observation that's just been made there, and a very interesting score around the election observers. And I mean, we have to be able to interrogate this issue around observers, who gives them their mandate, but most importantly, are they trained to look for what they will be looking for, right? How do they know what to look for? Do they have the eye for it? Do they receive adequate training? Or is this all voluntary at this point? In which case it will be, what is the relevance then of election observers? As the day progresses, we hopefully will be answering some of those questions and more. Namfundo, it is a very busy time, as you can see here at the National Results Operations Center in Tshwane. Never a dull moment, but it is back to you in studio.
No, thank you very much, Faith. Never a dull moment indeed, but certainly worth a conversation as well, that are they adequately trained? I know the IEC is adamant that they are trained, but sometimes we have situations where in such an environment, people suddenly flout all procedures that they know they're supposed to adhere to. But never